Hey guys, just your average Joe here, and I just want to make a quick video in reference to the story that broke today about MLB's suspension. They handed down a suspension to Dave Roberts of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the coach. They gave him a 1 game suspension, and then they also threw down an 8 game suspension on relief pitcher Joe Kelly. This is all because of last night's game. Joe Kelly came into the 6th inning, Dodgers versus Astros, threw behind Bregman on a 3-0 pitch, put Bregman on first, was then again erratic and wild after getting a force out at first. To another, I honestly don't know who the batter was that he walked after Bregman, but he was also wild on that one. And then when Carlos Correa came up, he was not only wild, but pretty much almost hit him and then ended up striking him out. And then when walking to the dugout, both Correa and Joe Kelly were exchanging words. I think Joe Kelly made some faces, mocked him, and Correa also said what he said. But then after that, both benches and I think even the bullpens cleared. Obviously nothing ensued, nothing happened. It never even got to the point where it looked like anybody was going to attack anybody. They just both came out. Look, this is something that has been discussed since what happened when, with the whole Astros scandal. This is something that I personally talked about on my show. I believe it's actually episode 3 of my Cup of Joe Unfiltered that I was doing. I can't remember if it was the end of February or the beginning of March, but I know it was right around spring training. I was talking to my then co-host, my friend James was over, and he was on the show with me. And I brought up this very topic. A lot of people in MLB, a lot of fans, everybody saw this coming. Everybody knew it was coming. People knew that not only when the Astros first played their first away game, but when they faced a team like the Dodgers, who felt cheated out of the 2017 World Series, because that's who they faced. Teams like the Dodgers, teams like the Red Sox, teams that are going to have an animosity against, even the Yankees, teams that are going to have an animosity against this organization personally because of what the Astros were found guilty of doing. Not just in one season. It actually came out that, they did it. They've done it other seasons before that, or after that. But I honestly can't remember if it was before or after, but even still, teams felt slighted, and teams felt, as did fans and as did players in general, feel that MLB did not do what was necessary to punish the individual players that were involved in the scandal. Yes, the Houston Astros as a team was fined. I think they were stripped of draft picks. They were stripped of other things. I get it. But they still allowed these cheaters, these players, whether they're on the Astros or not, even if they're with a different organization, they should still not be able to play for a certain amount of games. They allowed them. The MLB just didn't. I guess they stopped the investigation. They didn't want to go through the investigation. I don't know if it was a money thing or they just didn't want to do the time. They pulled over certain players, gave them immunity for talking, in exchange for, obviously, well, that's what immunity is. So basically said, okay, look, you tell us whatever, you have immunity. Punishment is, there is no punishment, but whatever happens with the organization itself, we will handle that. They will be fined, whatever. So everybody was patiently waiting for the season to happen. Then obviously we all know what happened with COVID-19 and then what leads us to here. So if I'm not mistaken, I remember seeing, because I will be straightforward here. I am a very big baseball fan. I'm a Mets fan. I said that in just a couple of streams ago, where I was talking about how I don't like the idea that this season's even happening. But so be it. I can either sit here and cry like a baby, or I can just not watch, and that's what I'm doing. But I cannot remember. I'm pretty sure it was actually just involved. It involved I think the Dodgers as well. Some team facing the Astros, I think in spring training, kind of I think started it up and threw at some players. I can't remember which team it was, but I think Altuve was hit. Um, and I think either Bregman or Correa, if I'm not mistaken. So, it started in the spring training and we knew it was coming. You had fans post streams and clips of them playing MLB 20, MLB The Show 20 when it first came out. And they were recreating, whether it was the Yankees or whatever other team they were playing, were, purposely, literally just throwing. Every pitcher in was just kept throwing and hitting each Astros player. That was, then that was in March. That was before everything happened. So, now fast forward to now, we're almost in August. We're not even a week away into the season. You have whatever came out a couple of days ago about, the Marlins outbreak. And, they're postponed, I believe, through Sunday with their games, as a precaution. I don't know what's going to happen from there. I hope no other teams get affected by this. But now you have this. And what I had said way back in March, I think, or again, it could have been the end of April, the end of February. I had said on my stream that I just feel not doing the right investigation, not doing or handing down the right punishment to these individual players. In the course of a season, you are opening your players up to a retaliation. You're opening up the actual players now to getting hurt, and you're opening up other players on other teams to getting hurt with possible brawls and retaliation in that nature. So I just feel like if it was actually addressed the right way in the very beginning, and players got the suspensions that they definitely deserved, you wouldn't have the animosity that you have. I mean, look, you might still have players that are sore about not being able to possibly have won a World Series because of you. So I'm not saying that would have maybe stopped what's going on now 100%, but there was so much pent up aggression and hatred over the last course of whatever year. I think it's been a year or just a few months. Since this has gotten out, and then you have players that have had this animosity for years, and again, look, I know Joe Kelly was not on that Los Angeles Dodgers team when it was the World Series, but he was on the Red Sox a couple of years ago. So he does have his own gripe with the Astros. I mean, he has a gripe with, with some of his teams too, as well. But my point is again, if the right punishment was handed down from the very beginning by MLB, and if they would have done their job and just discipline them, because look, here you have players that, and again, whether they're still in the Astros organization or not, if they're still in the MLB, if they're still suiting up, and if they're still putting on their representative team's jersey, they're still representing that city or that state. And now you have the city of Houston being represented by, what is it? Honestly, I don't know exactly how many players were under allegations. I know it was Altuve, I know Bregman, and I believe Correa. I'm not really sure who else personally was named. But let's just isolate those three just for now, just for the stream's sake. If I'm missing a couple or if I'm not naming a couple, that's my issue and that's my fault. But let's just pick these three in general. You're allowing these three players to suit up. Houston's representing the city of Houston, representing the game of baseball, and you're a cheater. You're a cheater. Like what? So what? You have people argue about Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. Everybody's an argument that these players cheated and don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not saying I'm against that argument. I'm not. I'm not saying that I believe they should be, because I'm not necessarily saying that. I don't know how far a steroid can take you as far as skill. I'm not saying it's not a competitive edge. It is. I'm not saying Barry Bonds would have been a bad player without it. But let's just say you take a player like Barry Bonds. Now you want, even with all his records and all his statistics, and again, I know it's tarnished because of the the steroid allegations, or I guess he was found guilty. So of all the steroids that surround his name. However, that's a personal competitive edge. Is it a cheat? Yes, it is. But for one player on a team to take a steroid, it gives himself a competitive edge. It's not guaranteed a World Series. But if you, as a team collectively, with a certain group of players, are doing like this systematic cheating method between banging garbage cans and whatever monitors or whatever other maybe possible digital things that they said, I don't know, it was never proven, but there was one shot where it looked like I believe it was Altuve, because he didn't want to have his jersey taken off. It looked like he might have had something maybe under his shirt. Again, that's all allegations. That's not that was never proven, but you have a collective team effort into basically cheating your way to a World Series victory. And that was that year. Who knows what else they were doing either previous years or the year after. Or if they would have continued it had they not got caught. How is that, like, how are you allowing those players to represent your league, your product as a GM of your team, as an owner of your team, owners in baseball in general, and the what do you call it? The commissioner. And that's where my gripe comes from, is I just feel like, from the commissioner down, it was not handled the right way. We knew the retaliations were going to come. We knew it was just a matter of time before, it was a Dodger versus Astros matchup, Red Sox versus Astros, Yankees versus Astros, and it would have been even elevated had there been fans, because you don't know what again, I'm not condoning any of this. I'm not saying that it's good, but you don't know what fans were going to do, what verbal abuse they were going to spew out of their mouths. And again, I know these are big boys, they can take it, but you've had fans throw stuff at players in the outfield and so on, or just players in the field in general. So you don't know what fans were going to do when these teams, when this team came into, your the what do you call it, the visiting team's ballpark. You had no idea what was going to happen. So you had, obviously that's scaled back now because you don't have any fans in the ballpark. So there's no fans in the stands to add that element, when when the Astros come to visit. But you do still have, and you have it because it happened, the retaliation. Now, obviously, because it's a 60-game season and you've already played about 5 or 6 games. So to be penalized, to be suspended for 8 games is a big cut. A big cut in a season that's so short. So because they did this at the gate, when it first happened, they said, okay, look, this is what's happened. We're going to throw down this 8-game suspension. Obviously it should, unless players don't care, it should eliminate this from happening further in other games because the suspension is so big. I think the suspension will be appealed, and it will be appealed, but I think the suspension will probably be shortened to maybe 3 or 4 games. I don't think 8 games is warranted. There was no contact. There was intent, but he never hit anybody, and he has very bad control. The only thing I can say is that I definitely do not condone throwing at any player's head. I don't care what they've done. I don't care what they do. No player should ever have their life threatened, especially by a major league fastball. You want to throw at a player, throw with their ass, throw with their back, throw with their leg. I mean, I feel like their ass is a bigger target, or their thigh is a bigger target than their head would be anyway. But so it should never be about hurting somebody. But at the same time, I get it. I get the animosity. I get why, Joe Kelly, at least, I don't know. I don't know what was in his head. I don't know what was in his thought process, but I can understand it. And again, MLB had to have seen this coming. You've had this was being talked publicly about, not by the Dodgers Association, but this was pretty much being talked about publicly way before the season ever started, way back, in the wintertime. So again, I just feel like this could have been avoided. I feel, at least, it's my opinion, this could have been definitely avoided. Um, if the players got the right amount of suspension. Because think about it this way: had these players been suspended, especially in a 60 game season, um, that would have been a big chunk. That would have been definitely a big chunk. And I feel like the Astros would have felt, as an organization, would have felt the impact of that more than what they got. I'm not saying that the money and the fines didn't hit them, hit them where it hurt, but I just feel like that would have been the right thing to do. Hell, a 60-game season, you could have suspended them for the entire season. A 60-game season in a regular season, 162 is nothing, right? But what better way to really show force? And again, no one knew this was coming at the time. This was not planned. COVID happened. I didn't even know the season was going to, honestly, and I don't think anybody else knew at one point we were going to have baseball at all. But it happened. It's 60 games, and so be it. But again, I would love to hear what you guys think. Hopefully not many Astro fans out there. I don't want to get too much hate for this, but again, guys, look. Even if you are an Astros fan, think outside the box. Don't think just because it's your team or just as a fan of your team. If another team was guilty of this, or if your team was robbed, let's say it was reversed. Let's say LA was the one that was cheating, and they won the World Series and the Astros lost. Just think outside of it and understand that you probably also would have not only understood the retaliation, but you would also probably say, most of these Dodgers players probably should have been suspended for, had they been the ones cheating. So again, let me know, guys, let me know in the comments, what you guys think. Do you feel MLB should have taken better measures? Do you think MLB should have suspended the Astro players individually? Or do you think that the MLB did what they could? And they did the right thing. And what's going on now in baseball with, the Dodgers doing what they did last night, and who knows what's going to happen in games to come. But do you think that the retaliations are warranted, or they should stop, and, and so on and so forth? So I would like to hear your comments. I just wanted to come on here and briefly talk about that. And that is all. So guys, enjoy the rest of your night. This has been Just Your Average Joe, and have a great night, guys.